One of the major goals that we have here at the Mississippi Republican Party this year is success in our legislative races. We are very fortunate to have a majority in the Senate right now. We have narrowed the gap significantly in the House. We are 8 seats now away from actually having a majority in the House, which I think if you'd asked a lot of people 10-15 years ago, they would have said it would have taken a lot longer than it has to do that. And so, you know, with all those elections up on the ballot this year, it's certainly a top priority of ours to try to grow that majority in the Senate and to try to take a majority for the first time in the House. It's historic in the sense that it's the first time in the modern era that Republicans would have a Speaker of the House, and I think that that has policy consequences that are very positive. If you look at a lot of the things that have been accomplished over the last couple of years, they've been accomplished through conservative leadership and through some bipartisanship in the legislature. But we do know from what we've seen in the campaign this year that if Democrats are able to stay in control, if they're able to gain any seats, then one of the first things they're going to want to do is they're going to want to roll back a lot of the things that were accomplished over the last couple of years. Specifically, they're going to roll back the protections that were put in place for doctors and healthcare providers. I worked in North Carolina last year, and you know, one of the things that we see in North Carolina from sort of a national perspective is something like what I was talking about earlier, where you see a lot of people moving in to the state from places that used to be governed by Democrats, and they move into North Carolina because they appreciate the fact that it's better for jobs, better for business, better for economic growth, just a more conservative agenda in the public policy sphere. And so they find North Carolina is a favorable place for them to go. It sort of provides them the kind of you know, climate of an area that they would want to live in. I think you see somewhat similar inside the state of Mississippi, where you see the parts of the state that are growing in terms of population. The ranking counties, the DeSoto counties. Down on the coast even still has population growth over 10 years, despite what happened with Hurricane Katrina. Still there's more people there than there were 10 years ago in a lot of these places. And you see the places where there's less, where people have moved away. You know, whether that's the Delta specifically, where people have moved away. There's a clear contrast to be drawn between them in terms of what's going on in terms of the politics there, the people that are representing them. You know, Rankin County is looked at as a county that has its act together, elects great people to represent them in Jackson, and it's almost all Republican. And then you look at some of the sort of problem areas of the state where people are leaving because there's no jobs or whatever the case may be, they're leaving, places that are run by all Democrats. And I think that there's something to that. I don't think that it's just a coincidence that people are fleeing where Democrats are in control and they're going to move to places where Republicans are in control. I don't think that happens by accident.
Are there any specific seats that you're targeting in this cycle?
Lots of them. There's lots of them that we're targeting. Without getting too specific into it, I think that there's a couple places that I'll mention specifically where I think we've got Republican candidates who show a great contrast with Democrats. We have Republican candidates who are proven job creators. They're not going out there saying I'm going to create jobs and they've never done it. They have done it. You know, they employ dozens of people in their communities, and they're running against incumbent Democrats who, you know, for example, you know, if you got a job creator on one side who employs dozens of people in the community, and he's running against a Democrat who within the first 45 days that he was in the legislature voted for himself to have a pay raise. That's a contrast.
I've heard about some districts where there was a majority vote for Haley Barbour, over 60%, yet they have a Democratic incumbent. Any comment there?
There's quite a few of those like that, and look, I mean, you know, it takes a long time sometimes. There's still plenty of counties in the state of Mississippi where many local elections for sheriff, supervisor, whatever the case may be, are still primarily fought out in the Democrat primary. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But, you know, I think the fact that the governor did so well there in his elections shows that there is a majority of voters that are in those districts that have no problem voting for Republican. They are certainly conservative, no doubt about that.
How are you feeling about the governor's race?
I'm cautiously optimistic. There is no doubt that it's going to be a tough fight. We happen to have an excellent candidate, and we are very lucky and fortunate that we have an excellent candidate in Phil Bryant. But it's going to be a close race. It really is. Democrats in the state of Mississippi pretty much start out around 40%. And I think Republicans pretty much start out around 40%. And so that means that there is a group of voters that are up for grabs there. And I think we're going to make a very aggressive case. But the thing to keep in mind is that it's not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. Democrat interest groups locally and nationally are going to get involved in Mississippi. They're going to do everything they can to turn out voters. They're going to do everything that they can to register voters. They're not going down without a fight. And so, Republicans, conservatives, they need to do the same thing. We're all stepping up and we're all engaged, and we're ready to go for it.